Hello and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another pen, and this pen has been loaned to me by Sean of the London Pen Company. So I think a little introduction to Sean. Sean is the owner of the London Pen Company, and Sean is based out of London in Ontario, Canada, not in London, UK.
Hey there, it's Sean from London Pen Co. Today we're going to start a pen journey. I started turning pens about 20 years ago after visiting the local wood show. I started originally with these simple two-part kit pens, and now I'm making these one-of-a-kind kitless pens.
Sean started out making kit pens on a small lathe over 20 years ago, run by a power drill, and like many of us that start out in the hobby, whether we use or make pens, knew nothing about wood turning in general. He made his first fountain pen kit for his father, who was an avid fountain pen user and owned several Mont Blancs. 20 years on, Sean's passion hasn't dwindled, and he never gets bored of making pens. He developed a love for interesting materials, which constantly fuels his passion to make and turn more pens. Sean has also now got into CNC lathes, which brings so many more advantages to turning pens. Quality and consistency are just a couple of advantages. Sean last year exhibited his pen range at the 2019 Toronto Pen Show. Since 2020 and the coronavirus pandemic changing most of our daily work routines, it worked out well for Sean as it gave him time to create the next new model in the lineup, the Christopher, which is named after Sean's father. Sean also has a new model coming up called the Richie, which will be released online in late August or September 2020. Due to logistical problems of meeting at pen clubs and pen shows, this will be an online release, whilst the coronavirus is still heavily around in society. Here's the pen, and I'd like to show you a little bit more of the pen here. So it comes in this little black box with London Pen Company here. If I remove the lid, you will see it comes in a little pen bed here. The first thing you get is a couple of stickers here, London Pen Company, and just a little bit of bedding. And then you have the pen wrapped up in this paper. So I think let's unwrap the pen. And then you have, if I remove this out of the way, the pen. So this is the Christopher model that Sean came up with in March 2020. And you can see here, this has a really nice caramel sort of look to the pen. And it's very highly polished as well. So you can see here, the finial is sort of a rounded flat end, which, to be honest, you don't normally see on a lot of pens. Normally you see a pointed cigar or a slightly pointed cigar or a completely flat top, but I like the way that this is actually rounded off to a square end. Now, the pen is actually quite cylindrical, so it doesn't really taper out to the cap here, and then when it comes down to the body, there is a slight drop there from the cap to the body, probably about 1 millimeter, and then the pen starts to taper down to what would be the blind cap or end cap. And again, this end cap is very highly polished and it's rounded off here to a flat point. But I like the size of this pen, and I like how highly polished it is. I think Sean has done a really good job at bringing this material to life, and this really, you can just see here, some of these caramel swirls there, and you can see my studio lights reflecting off that pen. That is very, very highly polished. There is a lot of chatoyance in this model as well, in this material, and you can just see that chatoyance there as it just comes to life. So for me, I really like this material, and I like the actual pen as well. If I unscrew the cap, there's something a little bit different here. So the first thing is you have an ebonite section which has a slight concave going on there. Not a lot, but it makes it quite comfortable to hold. A lot of people say that they don't like holding a resin section, and some pen makers do actually put an ebonite section on, and that's what Sean has done here. He also has a number 6 size Yovo nib, and this he has supplied with a broad nib there. If I unscrew the section here to the body, you'll see it comes with a standard international converter. But for me, I actually find that I like longer pens. It's not a weighty pen, but I like longer pens, and this for me is actually quite long. Now, Sean does say that this pen is not meant to be posted, so although you could get away with posting it there, it's not a secure posting. So it's not designed to post. But for me, I find that this is a really good length, and I just like the size of this pen and the weight of the pen as well. I like the material. Now, Sean does make these Christopher models in a lot of different material, but this is the caramel material, and I do actually like the colour going on here, and also the chatoyance, and then some of these black sort of veins that are going around the pen just makes it sort of sparkle a little bit more. You can just see here the chatoyance going on that pen. So, and you can also see that the pen is very highly polished. So I think Sean has done a very good job with making this pen. Now, one thing that, and I don't know if this is something that Sean has listened to in terms of criticism of other pen makers, but a lot of people complain about how long it takes to cap and uncap a pen, and that tends to push people away from threaded caps. This one, actually, I'll show you here. That's a half rotation, that's a full rotation, and the cap comes off. So it is just one full rotation. A lot of pens that you'll see on the market today can have anywhere between 2 and 5 or 6 even cap rotations before you can uncap that pen. So for me, that is really good as well. So I think Sean's done his homework here on this pen, and I like everything about it. I think sort of what do I not like about the pen? There really isn't a lot that I don't like about the pen. I think for me it might have been nicer to have the resin on the section, and I'm sure if you want a pen made from Sean, that's something you could ask for. However, I am actually going more towards ebonite, and I just like the feel of this. And this ebonite, it doesn't feel like glossy like the resin. It feels a little bit sort of grippy, maybe a slight amount of texture to it, but it's more grippy. So if you're a person that has, say, sweaty hands, especially in the summer months or even the autumn and the spring months, then you will probably find that an ebonite section will actually work a lot better for you, because you do get a lot more grip to an ebonite section, especially one that is not sort of like coated or lacquered. So I think actually that is a good thing that this does have an ebonite section on there. But I'm sure if you talk to Sean, if you want one of his pens and you want a resin section, I'm sure it's probably something that equally he can do as well. So I think let's do a size check, a weight check, we'll do a pen comparison, and then we'll do a writing sample. So the length of the pen, we are looking at quite a long pen. It's 152 millimeters in length. The length of the cap is 62 millimeters in length, so that is quite a long pen. And I remember Sean saying actually that he did actually make this to be a longer pen, and the length from the tip of the tine on the nib is about 140 millimeters in length. So even uncapped, it's actually quite a nice oversized pen. So the full weight of the pen, we are looking at about, I've got to try and stop this from rolling because there is no clip on this pen. It's about 23 grams in weight. The weight of the cap is about 6 grams, just over 6 grams, and then the weight of the body, we're looking at just under 15 grams. So it's not a bad weight pen. So from left to right, we have the Pelikan M805 Vibrant Blue, the Pelikan M800 Grand Place, we have an Atelier Lusso Carina in the Amethyst Fields, an Atelier Lusso Andromeda in the Vulcan's Forge, an Atelier Lusso Andromeda in the Tectonic Seas. We have the London Pen Company Christopher in Erinoid Caramel. We have a Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero in the Hawaii. We have a Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero in the Mediterraneo. We have a John Twiss Volcano. And then we have a Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero Grande in the sand. So, let's do a writing sample. So this is the London Pen Company, and it's the Christopher, and it's in the Erinoid Caramel, and it's a steel nib, so I'm going to put in here, it's a steel nib, and it is a broad nib. And I have to say, it's a Yovo nib, but I have to say that this nib is really, really nice to write with. It's a very, very smooth nib. Now, Sean did mention to me that his father, who unfortunately has now passed away, loved writing with green ink, so I've inked this up with a green ink. So this is, the ink is Diamine, and it's Sherwood Green. And that's named after Sherwood Forest in the UK. Now, in terms of line variation, this is a broad nib, so you're going to get a broad line here, and you can see here I'm not getting any hard starts or skips here whatsoever. If I try to apply a little bit more pressure, you can get on these Yovo steel nibs a little bit more line variation here. So if I do the figure of eights, you can see here that you can get some line variation out of this pen. But as you'll see there, I'm not getting any hard starts or skips. This is one thing I like about Yovo nibs, is that Yovo nibs are very, very consistent in how they write. So if you get one Yovo nib and you compare it to another Yovo nib, you are going to see a very consistent way in terms of the line variation and also the wetness of the nib. Now, this nib actually does write quite broad and does write quite wet. So we'll do an ink pass here. So in terms of the vertical lines, we are getting a little bit more ink laid down, and that's probably because I started to press a little bit harder. But on the cross lines or the horizontal lines, you're also getting quite a lot of ink laid down. So this is quite a wet nib, and I can just see here that these vertical lines are still drying. So these are still very wet. So this is a wet writing nib. And what do I like and what do I not like about the pen? I like the pen. I like the quality of the pen. I like the material. I like the polishing of the pen. I like that it's almost a seamless sort of break here between the cap and the body. The cap is slightly more wider, probably by about 1 millimeter, maybe not even 1 millimeter, but it does actually feel quite smooth. Now, I know a lot of people say that they prefer clips on pens. I'm actually a person that has a number of pens that don't have clips, and I don't have any problems with that. I typically do not clip pens in my pockets, so for me it's not an issue. Of course, if you put it on the desk, it will probably roll away. So that's where normally I would actually have a pen rest so that I could put the pen on, or I would have something to stop it. Sean can actually make pen stops or pen rolls for pens as well. He can also put a clip on if you want on a particular model. So if you're looking to get a particular model and you love the pen and you love the material but you just want a clip on it or a roll stop, then go and talk to Sean, and I'm sure Sean can probably do something for you. So that's a review of the London pen company Christopher in the Erinoid Caramel. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.